Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are going to be talking about an interesting update regarding Nintendo Switch 2. Someone who has multiple industry contacts, let's call them an insider, has said some very promising things about the Nintendo Switch 2 launch window, and has even gone on and suggested some other optimistic things regarding the reveal of the console. So what's being said exactly? What are the details? That's what we're getting into today. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. So the insider we are referring to here is Paul Gale from Paul Gale Network, a friend of the channel who's been within the industry for many years and has a variety of contacts. And recently, he said this on Twitter. A few major third-party developers whom at E3 2017 weren't anticipating Nintendo Switch taking off the way it did and didn't have a AAA title at launch, the show itself, are working on big launch window releases for Nintendo's next system. Nintendo Switch 2 will have some early, significant ports, parallel releases, and exclusives. I am thrilled at the prospect of what's next. So to break down the full meaning of this, essentially, back in 2017, when Nintendo was starting things up with the Nintendo Switch, it launched in March, so before E3 2017 in June, but in the beginning few months, there were a lot of developers that weren't ready to start supporting the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo was still coming off of the poor success of the Wii U. And so considering that poor success of that console, and also just Nintendo's struggles with third parties over the years, many third parties were not thinking the Switch would be a promising environment for their games. Yet, over the Switch generation, Nintendo has proven that the Switch format is a very promising environment for third-party games. And so now Paul is suggesting, from what he's heard of his different industry contacts, is that a lot of developers are indeed excited for Switch 2 and are lining up their games. Some games that are already popular, that are already out, will be ported over. Other games that are still slated to be coming out will be releasing day and date with the other versions, the parallel releases. And there will be some games that will be made exclusively for Nintendo Switch 2. So this time, the support is going to be a lot stronger from third parties than ever before. Now, last night during Nintendo Prime's podcast, which I took part of, Paul Gale was there and we had a chat about this situation, and there were some other things that were said regarding Nintendo Switch 2, which we'll be getting to later into this video. But I first want to dive a little bit deeper on just this overall third-party situation and what's being said about the support here. Going back to last year, Paul said this. A friend that works at a third party told me the difference in dev kit excitement working on Nintendo's next system is night and day to how they approach Nintendo Switch. There's nothing else beyond that. Hypothesizing on my part, but this likely also speaks true for multiple studios. So there's been a little bit of a change of tune. A year ago, it was one friend that worked at a third party. Now it appears that multiple contacts are suggesting promising things and eagerness to support the Nintendo Switch 2. And if for whatever reason you don't trust Paul Gale, Paul isn't the only person that has been suggesting promising things regarding third-party support for Nintendo Switch 2. Also going back to last year, we have Tom Henderson, the owner of Insider Gaming, and they had said, September 30th of 2023, really excited for the Nintendo Switch 2 and its tech. We'll see launching on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC a heck of a lot in 12 to 18 months. And so what's interesting about this one is that almost 12 months ago, Tom Henderson said this. So come the end of September, we will enter that window of time where he is expecting us to see all these different third-party games getting announced. And what I find interesting about this is sort of the expectation on when the Switch 2 will be revealed. Because I've been on record suggesting that I think the system could get some sort of substantial details, maybe even a teaser, as early as this month of August. Now, that is just my opinion, and have also acknowledged the possibility that it may still happen in September or October, and October makes a lot of sense because when we go back to 2016, that's when Nintendo revealed the Switch 1 with its teaser trailer. So perhaps we could be looking at a similar scenario here. Which brings us back to the conversation that we had with Paul during Nintendo Prime's podcast last night. Something that was brought up is that from what Paul understands personally, privately, he can't reveal all the details, he believes there's about a 64% chance that Nintendo will reveal the console this year, this calendar year. Now, what should be understood about this is that Paul doesn't know for a fact if the Switch 2 will be revealed in this calendar year. Simply based off what he's discussed with his contacts, that seems to be the conclusion he's arriving to, at least in terms of it being more likely than not. And while it's not the end of the world if we don't get the Switch 2 reveal this calendar year, I do think it's important in terms of us understanding if the Switch 2 is coming out by that supposed March 2025 date, in time to close out this fiscal year where Nintendo is having some poor sales. They may want the Switch 2 to come out to really bolster their overall sales for this fiscal year. Not to mention that's exactly how they handled things for the beginning of the Nintendo Switch. They put out the teaser trailer back in October of 2016, they had their big presentation showing off all the details of the console in January of 2017, and then the console launched March 3rd of 2017. But something has recently occurred to me. Nintendo has already confirmed to us that they will be providing an announcement before the end of the fiscal year, which would be by the end of March 2025. That does not confirm that the console will be coming out this fiscal year. And so those on the pessimistic side are going to assume that we're only going to get this announcement during this fiscal year and Switch 2 will be coming out even later. That may be, but my perspective on this is, if Nintendo has already announced that they will be making an announcement way ahead of time, several months, then this announcement won't just be a simple tweet, but probably more so like an actual trailer that we can see on YouTube that might even have announcement in the title of the trailer. Essentially, I think this announcement is likely going to be the teaser trailer. And if this is the case, they're probably not going to put out this teaser trailer on the very, very last day of March. It's probably going to be somewhat before that. We're hoping it's this calendar year. But regardless, even if it is the very end of March, based off how Nintendo handled Nintendo Switch 1, where they showed that teaser trailer for Switch 1 on October 20th of 2016, and then the console launched on March 3rd of 2017, that was about a 19-week period, essentially 4.5 months. So, in my opinion, worst case scenario here, I think the latest we see Switch 2 come out is 4.5 months after the end of the fiscal year. So, past April, past May, past June, past July, sometime in the thick of August, I think is the latest we see the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. And now let me ask all of you watching, do you think Nintendo would want to release a console in the middle of August, 1 year from now, after we just got that recent quarterly results where numbers were way down? I don't think so. But of course, I'm simply speculating. Now, going back to the kind of support that we could be seeing coming from third parties, what does Paul have in mind here? Well, this part is also speculation, but we have heard different things from major third parties. For example, we know that Square Enix is shifting from quantity to quality and wants to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy. In other words, not just exclusive Final Fantasy games on PlayStation, but perhaps another popular console that's great with RPGs, the Nintendo Switch 2. And we also know that the relationship between Nintendo and Microsoft is growing, and they've already made promises to bring over Call of Duty. But of course, we've also seen a lot of Bethesda games which are now under the umbrella of Microsoft come to Nintendo Switch, and with the Switch 2 and everything we've heard about its horsepower, likely will be an even better fit for a lot of these Bethesda games. Perhaps that next Doom game is likely going to be a Switch 2 title. And perhaps other Microsoft games could be coming as well, like maybe Fable, like maybe Perfect Dark, and more. Perfect Dark, having a history on Nintendo, might perform really well, if not even better than what it would do on Xbox. So I think there's plenty of reason to expect a lot of support from Microsoft. But then we also have companies like Capcom. Capcom has supported the Switch, but there are rumors that Monster Hunter Wilds will be coming to Nintendo Switch too. And really, the list goes on here. I think there's a lot of big third parties that make sense to have something early on for the console. A lot of companies missed out on that opportunity to succeed on Nintendo Switch 1. But now that all these companies have seen how great that went, they're going to want to be there early on for Nintendo Switch 2. And considering this strong third-party support, it does have me wondering if this will impact Nintendo's own games. And I'm not here trying to say that Nintendo is going to dial it back, but I do wonder if maybe they'll be a bit selective on the type of games and what will be coming out during certain points in time. So for example, say maybe Capcom wants to have Monster Hunter Wilds available within the first few weeks, if not even maybe day one for the Nintendo Switch 2, perhaps even March of 2025. Maybe Nintendo won't want to put out the next new 3D Mario during this time and save that single player experience for closer to the holidays, and instead they put out something that complements Monster Hunter a little bit better. Maybe something like the next new Mario Kart, for example. I'm just spitballing some ideas here. Regardless, I am certain Nintendo will put out something huge day one for the console, and from everything we're sort of seeing, it seems like they're trying to follow up what they did with Nintendo Switch 1, which means one of the best software lineups we've seen in a very long time. I've noticed a vocal part of the Nintendo community saying that the lineup for this year is great. And while there are games that have been coming out and will be coming out this year from Nintendo that I am excited for, I wouldn't say it's great. I would say it's doing what they can in this 8th year of the console. It's good for where we're at, but it's not good for drilling up significant sales, because if it were, we wouldn't have had the quarterly results we just had. There's a reason most of the projects coming out this year are not being made by internal Nintendo teams. It's because those internal Nintendo teams are hard at work for their next big releases early on for Switch 2, which I do believe we'll be seeing a lot of next year. And so I also find the prospect of the Switch 2 launch window to be very thrilling. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.